Imagine a car so expensive, so extreme, and so finely engineered that it costs more than a private jet $15 million for a single machine built for one purpose. Speed, not luxury, not comfort, not even practicality, just raw, untamed velocity on the world's most dangerous racetracks. This is not the story of a road car. For the wealthy or a collector's trophyette, it's the story of how Formula One pushed engineering into uncharted territory, producing machines that defy physics, challenge human limits, and redefine what speed means. But here's the question that makes people pause: why? Would a single car be worth that staggering amount of money? What could possibly justify a price tag higher than a mansion in Beverly Hills or an island in the Caribbean? To answer that, we need to peel back the layers of Formula One, a world where billions of dollars are poured into research, design, and testing, all for cars that might only last a season before being replaced by something even faster. Every bolt, every wing, every line of carbon fiber carries a story of innovation and obsession. And it all leads us to one unforgettable Coron F1 machine that didn't just race, but changed the game forever. A car that forced rivals to rethink their designs, made fans question the very definition of speed, and left a legacy so powerful that even today, its influence is felt in every Grand Prix. Was it worth $15 million? Or was it something beyond price, a piece of history that cannot be measured in dollars? That's the journey we're about to take. The rise of a Formula One car so revolutionary, so ahead of its time, that it left the world in awe. This is not just a racing story, it's a story of human ambition colliding with technology at 200 miles per hour. To understand how a Formula One car could reach a value of $15 million, we first need to step inside the secretive world of F1 engineering. At first glance, these cars may look like sleek machines built only for speed. But beneath the surface lies a battlefield of science, mathematics, and imagination. Every component, no matter how small, has been pushed to the limits of what technology can create. The steering wheel alone is a marvel, costing tens of thousands of dollars, packed with buttons and switches that control everything from brake balance to engine mapping. It's like the cockpit of a fighter jet compressed into something that fits between a driver's hands. And then there's the body. Forget steel or aluminum. Formula One cars are crafted from ultralight carbon fiber composites, each piece carefully sculpted in wind tunnels where engineers watch how invisible streams of air dance across every curve. They spend thousands of hours shaving off fractions of a second, because in F1, a single blink can mean the difference between first and last. If you've ever wondered why these cars look so futuristic, it's because they're not just designed for the present, they're built for tomorrow, testing ideas years ahead of road cars. But it isn't only the technology that drives the cost sky high, it's the competition. Rival teams pour hundreds of millions into outsmarting one another, forcing constant innovation. In this relentless arms race, the car we're exploring didn't just participate, it dominated. It broke the rules of convention, forcing the entire sport to shift. Think about it. The price tag isn't just for the car itself, but for the thousands of hours, the genius minds, and the cutting-edge facilities behind it. When you look at a Formula One car on the grid, you not just seeing a vehicle, you looking at the peak of human engineering distilled into 4 wheels and a roaring engine. And this particular $15 million car, it wasn't just another competitor. It was a weapon designed to shatter expectations. The story of this $15 million machine takes us back to an era when Formula One was undergoing one of its most dramatic transformations. The sport had always been about speed, but now it was entering a new age where technology, data, and engineering genius mattered just as much as the courage of the driver behind the wheel. At the center of it all was a single team, a single car, and a single vision that would shake the racing world to its core. Picture the early 2000s, when F1 was dominated by giants Ferrari, McLaren, and Williams. Each team poured staggering amounts of money into gaining even the smallest advantage. Yet in this battlefield, one car stood out not because it looked radically different at first glance, but because it performed like nothing else on the track. This was the machine that redefined how Formula One cars were built. Its designers didn't just refine old ideas, they rewrote the blueprint entirely. This car introduced groundbreaking innovations in aerodynamics and engine performance. Engineers discovered ways to bend the very air around it, creating downforce so powerful that the car could take corners at mind-bending speeds that left rivals gasping. Its V10 engine didn't just roar, it screamed, delivering a sound so fierce that fans still describe it as the voice of pure speed. On the track, it wasn't just quick, it was untouchable. But here's where the story gets even more fascinating. The brilliance of this machine wasn't only in how fast it was in how it forced everyone else to rethink what was possible. Rivals had to tear up their designs, questioning whether they could keep up or fall behind. In a sport where innovation spreads like wildfire, this single car lit a blaze that changed the entire landscape of Formula One. And it wasn't just the engineers or the rivals who felt the shockwave, the fans did too. Watching this car race wasn't just watching a competition, it was witnessing history unfold. A moment where people realized they weren't just seeing another fast car. They were watching the future of motorsport being written in real time. At the heart of this revolutionary car was something that seemed almost invisible: the mastery of aerodynamics. To the casual eye, it looked like just another F1 machine, sleek and low to the ground. But if you studied it closely, every curve, every fin, every wing had a purpose. It wasn't simply about cutting through the air, it was about controlling it. Engineers discovered how to make the air press the car down with such force that it could grip corners like no other machine before. Rival cars would skid or wobble under pressure, but this one carved through bends with surgical precision, almost as if it were glued to the track, the most jaw-dropping fact. At certain speeds, the downforce was so strong that, in theory, the car could drive upside down on a tunnel ceiling and still stick to the surface. Of course, that stunt was never attempted, but just knowing it was possible made fans realize they weren't watching a car anymore. They were watching a phenomenon of physics. But innovation came at a cost, literally. Each new aerodynamic upgrade meant weeks of testing in wind tunnels. Millions of dollars poured into tiny changes that shaved off hundredths of a second. And yet, that's the essence of Formula One. In a sport where victories are measured in fractions of a blink, this relentless pursuit of perfection is what turns a car into a legend. And let's not forget the engine. This wasn't a quiet machine, it was a symphony of controlled chaos. A naturally aspirated V10 that produced a sound so thunderous, so electrifying, that fans still argue it was the greatest sound in motorsport history. The scream of that engine wasn't just noise, it was a declaration, a warning to rivals. A reminder that speed was no longer just being chased, it was being redefined. The combination of unmatched aerodynamics and raw engine power turned this $15 million marvel into more than a race car. It became a symbol of human brilliance, of daring ambition, and of the unshakable will to go faster than ever before. Fans didn't just watch it win races, they felt like they were watching the very boundaries of speed being rewritten before their eyes. No Formula One car, no matter how advanced, can truly prove itself without the person who dares to tame it, the driver. And this is where the legend of the $15 million machine becomes even more compelling. Behind the wheel sat a driver whose skill and fearlessness matched the car's engineering genius. Together, they became an unstoppable force, blurring the line between man and machine. Driving this car was no ordinary task. It demanded reflexes faster than thought, strength to wrestle the steering wheel through high-speed corners, and courage to trust the invisible hands of aerodynamics keeping it glued to the track. At speeds over 200 miles per hour, a single mistake could mean disaster. Yet, in the hands of its driver, this machine seemed almost effortless, smooth, precise, and terrifyingly fast. Race after race, the combination of talent and technology crushed the competition. Rivals would push their cars to the limit, only to see this machine glide past as if the laws of physics had been rewritten. Fans began to sense they weren't just watching a great season. They were watching dominance of historic proportions. The car wasn't winning, it was redefining what winning looked like. And here's where the magic lies. When a car and driver achieve this kind of harmony, it goes beyond sport, it becomes art. Fans still recall the goosebumps, the sound of the engine screaming down the straight, the blur of colors as the car danced through corners, and the sight of rivals left in the dust. It was more than victory, it was poetry written at 18,000 RPM. This is why the $15 million price tag doesn't feel outrageous to those who witnessed it. You can put a dollar value on the materials, the technology, and even the man-hours. But how do you measure the value of a moment that becomes eternal? For fans, for the sport, and for history itself, this car was priceless. The dominance of this machine didn't just change the outcome of races. It shook the very foundations of Formula One. Rival teams, some with decades of success behind them, suddenly found themselves scrambling, desperate to understand how one car had leaped so far ahead. Engineers tore apart their designs, searching for answers. But by the time they figured out one secret, this car's team had already moved on to the next innovation. It was like chasing a shadow that always stayed one step ahead. And that's what made this car such a legend. It wasn't just fast, it was relentless. Every race became a statement. Speed wasn't enough anymore. Precision wasn't enough anymore. To compete in this new era, teams had to rethink everything from the ground up. In many ways, this $15 million marvel forced Formula One to evolve years faster than it might have otherwise. It set a new standard that no one could afford to ignore. But there was another layer to the story, one that sparked endless debates among fans. Some saw this car as a masterpiece, the perfect blend of driver skill and engineering brilliance. Others argued it created an imbalance, making the sport less about competition and more about domination. Did it make racing too predictable? Did it rob fans of the uncertainty they craved? These questions turned into heated discussions in living rooms, bars, and online forums. People weren't just watching Formula One anymore. They were arguing about its future, thanks to this single car. That's the paradox of greatness. The very things that make something extraordinary also make it controversial. And this machine embodied that paradox perfectly. It thrilled millions, frustrated rivals, and left the sport grappling with its own identity. Was Formula One about fair competition? Or was it about pushing the boundaries of human and technological potential, no matter the cost? One thing was certain, this car wasn't just racing. It was rewriting the rules of what Formula One could be. As the seasons unfolded, the legend of this car only grew stronger. It wasn't just about the trophies it collected or the records it shattered, it was about the aura it carried. Fans would arrive at circuits around the world not merely to see who would win, but to witness how this machine would dominate. Every lap felt like a glimpse into the future of motorsport. You could sense the anticipation in the air. Would anyone be able to challenge it, or would it once again prove untouchable? What made the experience unforgettable wasn't only the speed, it was the spectacle. The way the car launched off the starting line with a roar that shook your chest, the way it weaved through corners as if the track itself bent in its favor, and the way it crossed the finish line with such command that rival teams could only watch in disbelief. Fans describe the feeling as surreal, like watching something beyond human possibility. But the true impact wasn't limited to the racetrack. This machine inspired a generation of future engineers, mechanics, and even drivers. Young fans who watched it tear through circuits with unshakable authority dreamed of building or driving something just as revolutionary one day. Universities studied its design, road car manufacturers borrowed its innovations, and the world beyond Formula One felt the ripples of its brilliance. And yet, for all its dominance, the car sparked one lingering question that still fascinates fans today. Was this perfection, or was it the beginning of Formula One losing its unpredictability? It's the kind of debate that fills comment sections and forums, even now some insisting it was the golden era of racing. Others believing it tilted the scales too far. That tension, that split in opinion, is exactly what keeps the story alive. Because legends aren't built on victories alone. They're built on the emotions they stir, the awe, the admiration, the frustration, and the endless conversations that follow. And this $15 million marvel created all of that in ways no other machine had before. As time passed, the reign of this car eventually came to an end. Formula One is a sport that never stands still. Regulations change, technology advances, and new challengers rise. Yet even as newer machines took to the track, none could erase the legacy left behind. The $15 million car had already etched its place in history, not only through its victories, but through the ripple effect it created across the entire sport. Its influence could be seen in the years that followed. Rival teams adopted design philosophies it had pioneered. Road cars began borrowing technologies once thought impossible for consumer vehicles. And Formula One itself reshaped its rules to ensure competition remained fair. In many ways, this car forced the sport to grow, to adapt, and to acknowledge that greatness comes with consequences. But for the fans who witnessed it, the memory was more personal, the sight of rivals shrinking in the mirrors, and the sheer sense of awe when the car stormed down straights at breathtaking speeds. Those moments became stories passed down from one generation of racing fans to the next. You should have seen it. You should have heard it. You should have felt it. And here's the thing that makes it timeless. Even now, debates rage on about whether this machine was the pinnacle of Formula One, or the moment it became too perfect. Was it the height of human achievement in motor, or the point where dominance overshadowed unpredictability? There's no single answer on it. That's exactly why it lives on. People can't stop talking about it. It was a statement, a reminder that sometimes innovation leaps so far ahead it leaves the rest of the world scrambling to catch up. And in doing so, it doesn't just win races, it changes history. Looking back, the story of this $15 million Formula One car isn't just about engineering brilliance or championship trophies. It's about what happens when human ambition, limitless innovation, and fearless driving collide at full speed. This car wasn't built for showrooms or collectors. It was built to chase perfection on the world's toughest circuits. And in that pursuit, it became something more than a machine. It became a symbol of how far we're willing to go to push the limits of possibility. Its legacy lives in every corner of Formula One today. From the aerodynamics that keep modern cars glued to the track, to the precision engineering that road vehicles borrow, its DNA is everywhere. Even the debates it sparked about dominance, fairness, and the true spirit of competition remain alive, fueling conversations every race weekend. It reminds us that greatness always comes at a cost, whether it's measured in money, innovation, or controversy. But perhaps the most powerful part of this story is the way it captured imaginations. Fans didn't just see a car. They saw the future of speed, a glimpse of what humanity could achieve when creativity and technology worked together without compromise. Some admired it, others criticized it, but nobody ignored it. And that's the mark of true legend. So, was it worth $15 million? For those who witnessed it roar across the finish line, who felt the ground shake beneath its V10 scream, and who still argue about it decades later, the answer is simple. You can't put a price on history. This was more than just a car. This was the moment Formula One redefined speed forever.